It all began with a crash, but not just any crash. A wealthy couple was returning from a visit to their daughter in Bangalore, cruising down the highway in their private car with their loyal driver at the wheel. Suddenly, their journey screeched to a halt near a dusty stretch of road by the Gulrahali Gate in Karnataka's Hassan district. A flat tire forced them to stop. Just as the husband stepped out to help change it, a truck sped in from nowhere and slammed into him. He died on the spot. That was the story his wife sobbed to the police. But no one, not the cops, not the family, not even the media, could have imagined what this story would become. Because 10 days later, the man they cremated came back. Shilpa Rani and Muniswamy Gowda were the picture of prosperity in the rural town of Hoskote. He was 49, an agricultural expert and tire dealer. She was 39, elegant and poised. Their daughter lived far away in Bangalore studying. Life was quiet, routine, and above all, stable. They owned their own car, had a business, land, and money. And yet, as we now know, beneath the surface, a plan was already taking shape. A plan that would turn tragedy into profit and life into a scripted illusion. On August 13th, 2024, they left Bangalore in their SUV. With their daughter safely back in her hostel, they hit the road. Somewhere along the way, the car's tire gave out. The driver, Somesh, pulled over. Muniswamy stepped out to help, digging into the trunk for the spare. What happened next was sudden and brutal. A speeding truck smashed into the front of the vehicle. Somesh jumped away just in time, but Muniswamy didn't. His body crumpled under the impact. The nearby police station at Gandasi received the call minutes later. Officers rushed to the scene. The grieving wife, Shilpa Rani, told her version of events. They were both in the car, the tire blew, her husband went out to help, and a reckless truck struck him down. She was inconsolable. Police believed her. The body was taken to the hospital, declared dead, and sent for post-mortem. Muniswamy's funeral took place in their home village, Chikoliga. Friends and family poured in. There were garlands, rituals, ashes. Shilpa wept in front of everyone. Her act was so flawless that not a single soul doubted her pain. No one questioned the accident. No one suspected a thing. But then came the report, the one piece of paper that cracked the surface. When the post-mortem results came in, they showed something alarming. The deceased had injuries inconsistent with a road accident. There were marks on the neck, indicative of strangulation. Could the crash have been staged? Investigators reopened their inquiry. They returned to the hospital to interview staff. And that's when the first real clue emerged. A nurse remembered Shilpa Rani asking, oddly, for her husband's face to be covered in bandages. But the face wasn't damaged. Why hide it? Meanwhile, the Gandasi police followed routine protocol. They analyzed CCTV footage near the accident spot. They traced the truck involved. The driver, a man named Devendra Naik from Chikmagalur, was found and arrested. He confessed, said it was an accident. He panicked. He fled. But something about his guilt seemed rehearsed. A week later, in a town over 230 kilometers away, another twist struck. In Siligata, Inspector Srinivas, a distant relative of the late Muniswamy, was startled by a knock on his door. When he opened it, he froze. There, standing alive and breathing, was the very man he'd seen cremated, Muniswamy Gowda. Am I hallucinating? The officer wondered. Is this a ghost? Inspector Srinivas let him in. He didn't panic. He asked no questions. He simply invited him to sit, offered water, and quietly messaged his station for backup. You see, he knew something was wrong, very wrong, and he had to play it right. Within the hour, Muniswamy was in custody, and then, under pressure, the real story began to unfold. Back at the Gandasi station, the investigation deepened. Why was Shilpa Rani at the hospital before the news was even public? Why did her body show no sign of injury despite being present during the crash? And where was their driver, Somesh? He too had vanished. Vanished just like Shilpa, who was now nowhere to be found. When officers checked local insurance offices, their suspicions exploded into full-blown horror. Just days after the funeral, Shilpa Rani had visited to submit a claim on her husband's multi-crore life insurance policies. Not one, but several, totaling over 5 crore rupees. And she was the sole nominee. The perfect plan was coming into focus. Fake a death, claim insurance, disappear. But whose body had been burned in that pyre? Who had taken Muniswamy's place? When the team from Gandasi arrived at Siligata station and took custody of Muniswamy, they were no longer dealing with a grieving widow or a tragic accident. They were staring at a conspiracy, one built with precision, patience, and a victim no one even knew existed. But that's only the beginning. And most chillingly, who was the man who died in Muniswamy's place? Imagine being so invisible to the world that your death wouldn't even raise a question. No one to ask where you went. No one to miss you. Now imagine someone finding you and treating you like a human for the first time. Feeding you, clothing you, showing you kindness, only to turn you into a corpse for a lie. This is the story of a man no one knew, and how his life ended to fake another's death. After being taken into custody, Muniswamy began confessing in fragments. At first, he denied everything. But as investigators unraveled the pieces, he broke down. He had been drowning in debt. His once thriving agricultural business and tire shop had crumbled post-COVID. He owed lakhs. Creditors knocked daily. He had mortgaged land, borrowed from friends, and even taken private loans. When it became unbearable, he did something few could imagine. He decided to disappear. And what inspired him? Not a friend's advice or a desperate last resort, but a movie. Shivaji, the Boss, a blockbuster featuring superstar Rajinikanth. In one scene, the protagonist fakes his own death to escape his enemies. That single scene planted the seed in Muniswamy's mind. But this was no film. He needed a plan so airtight that no one, family, friends, police, could find a hole in it. The answer? Life insurance fraud. If he could convince the world he had died, his wife could claim the insurance money and they could start a new life. Rich, free, and vanished. But how do you fake your death? You need a body, and not just any body, one that looks like you. Same building, same height, same skin tone, a body you can swap without raising questions. So he began searching. He scoured train stations, bus stops, roadside shelters, anywhere he might find someone forgotten by the world. And in Vijayanagar's hospit town, he found him. The man was a rag picker, homeless, likely orphaned. He lived day to day, collecting discarded bottles and scrap metal, selling them to junk dealers for a few rupees. Sometimes he begged, sometimes he didn't eat. He had no ID, no home, no past, just another invisible soul drifting on the margins. And he bore a chilling resemblance to Muniswamy. At first, Muniswamy approached gently, offering meals, some cash. The rag picker was wary at first, but soon warmed up. After all, when was the last time anyone had spoken to him like a human? Muniswamy even brought his wife, Shilpa Rani, into the act. She cooked hot meals for the man and sent them with her husband. They even gave him clothes. Muniswamy's old shirts and pants. Slowly, they made him look more and more like Muniswamy himself. For 2 months, this continued, grooming him, feeding him, gaining trust. Sometimes they took him for car rides, sometimes to the market, and then, one day, they took him to the hospital under the guise of a health checkup. There, Muniswamy discreetly found out the man's blood group. By some bizarre coincidence, it matched his own. That's when the plan became real. He had the look-alike. The insurance policies were in place. Shilpa Rani was the nominee for every one of them. Crores in coverage. All they needed now was a believable accident. Enter the accomplices. Muniswamy approached Devendra Naik, a truck driver from Chikamagaluru. According to police, he not only offered him 5 lakh rupees, but also gifted him a truck. But there was a condition. When I give the signal, you must hit my car, but not too hard. Just enough to make it believable. The driver agreed. Money like that doesn't come often. And what was one staged accident anyway? Next came their own car driver, Somesh. He too was roped in. Along with 2 more men, Suresh and Vasant, the team was 6 strong. Husband, wife, car driver, truck driver, and 2 facilitators. Everyone had a role. Everyone knew what was at stake. It wasn't just a scam, it was theater. One with blood. On the day of the staged accident, the couple began as any family trip would. They drove to Bangalore to visit their daughter. But on the return trip, they deviated. Shilpa Rani was dropped off at home. Muniswamy and the driver then went to pick up their rag picker guest. They gave him food, made him comfortable, even joked with him. He had no idea he was going to die that day. Further down the road, they picked up the other accomplices. Then, near Gulrahali Gate, everything unfolded according to plan. They stopped the car, let some air out of the tire, positioned the rag picker by the vehicle, gave a signal to the truck, and then impact. The truck struck the man standing by the car. His body was hurled to the ground. The others acted fast, wrapping the face, distorting identity. Shilpa arrived later, alone. She wept, identified the body as her husband's, and, because of the injury to the face, insisted on keeping it bandaged during funeral rites. Police never questioned it. The corpse looked enough like Muniswamy. The papers matched. The wife was grieving. No one had any reason to suspect. The cremation happened, and Muniswamy. He slipped away, ready to live as a dead man. But there was a flaw. Post-mortem. It showed strangulation, which meant the man was already dead before the truck hit him. And once that inconsistency arose, everything else began to fall apart. When Muniswamy went to his cousin, Inspector Srinivas, he had hoped for help. Maybe his family bond would buy him silence. But Srinivas chose duty over blood. Back at the police station, everything was coming undone. The body had no ID, no fingerprint match, no name, no history. He was a man who never existed in the eyes of the system. Only now did he matter, because he was dead. Investigators asked Muniswamy one simple question. What was his name? And his answer: I don't know. I never asked. 2 months of friendship, 2 months of meals, clothes, smiles, and he never asked the man's name. That was the final cruelty. The man who died in place of Muniswamy may never be identified. He had no one to report him missing, no family, no records, just a tragic, invisible life used as a stepping stone for greed. He was never supposed to matter, and yet in death, he became the key to exposing everything. But the story isn't over. The final answers and the final question await. When Muniswamy was brought back to the Gandasi police station, the mood shifted from shock to fury. Officers who once offered condolences now prepared charge sheets. A husband faking his death is disturbing enough, but using a voiceless, nameless man to pull it off? That crossed every boundary of morality. Now the pressure was on. Where was Shilpa Rani? What happened to the others? And how deep did this deception run? The police wasted no time. Using information from Muniswamy's confession, they tracked down each of the accomplices one by one. Devendra Naik, the truck driver who played the role of a remorseful, hit-and-run culprit, was already in custody. He stuck to the original plan at first, shedding fake tears, accepting guilt, acting devastated. But when he learned that Muniswamy had confessed, his facade crumbled. He admitted everything: the truck, the money, even the agreement to accidentally get caught so it wouldn't raise suspicion. Then came Somesh, the car driver. He had vanished after the staged accident, but was found hiding in a neighboring town. Confronted with overwhelming evidence, he broke too. So did Suresh and Vasant, the other two accomplices. The plan had been elaborate, every move rehearsed like a stage play. And now, with all the actors exposed, it was time to understand the full script. Investigators pieced together the sequence of events in painful detail. The rag picker had likely been strangled in the car, away from any witnesses. His body had been kept hidden until the precise moment of the crash. The crash itself was choreographed. Air from the tire let out to fake a sudden stop, the truck waiting at a distance to pick up speed, and then the kill shot. Every angle had been considered. Even the damage to the front of the car was staged afterward to make the crash look real. But there was one thing they hadn't counted on: a post-mortem report written by a meticulous doctor who noticed that the injuries didn't align with the supposed cause of death. That small detail unraveled everything. Meanwhile, the question that haunted every officer, journalist, and citizen was the same: who was the man that died? How could a human being go unnoticed in a country of over 1 billion people? He had no Aadhaar card, no fingerprints on record, no missing persons report. Not even a name, just a body that resembled someone else, used as a placeholder in a fraudulent scheme. Muniswamy had 2 months to learn about him, 2 months to ask him basic questions. But he never did. When police pressed him, he shrugged and said, "He never talked about his past. I didn't ask. It didn't matter." Didn't matter? The words stung. Because the truth was, it should have mattered. A life was taken not in a moment of rage or fear, but in cold, calculated silence. That man had trusted them. He had smiled, eaten their food, sat in their car, laughed, and then he was gone. With all conspirators arrested, the case moved to court. But surprisingly, all of them were granted bail. Perhaps the court felt their cooperation and confessions were enough to merit it. Or perhaps the lack of a known victim made conviction harder. After all, how do you seek justice for a man with no identity? Still, the insurance money was frozen. The companies revoked the claim. Public outrage erupted as media channels picked up the story. News anchors debated everything from morality to mental health to the failure of society in letting someone be so invisible. But amidst all this noise, no one came forward to claim the unknown man. Not a brother, not a friend, not even a neighbor. Shilpa Rani's actions shocked the public the most. She had wept during the funeral, hugged relatives, claimed to be broken. And yet, she had been the driving force behind the entire operation, the master of grief and the mistress of fraud. Her coldness, seen in how she calmly asked the hospital to cover the face of the body, revealed a level of detachment that still chills investigators. But let's pause here. What drove her? Was it just greed? Or something deeper, resentment over a life that had fallen from riches to ruin? Was she blinded by love for her husband, willing to commit murder to save him? Or did she simply see opportunity in a dying business and an insurance policy? And what about Muniswamy? Was he a desperate man with no way out? Or a manipulator who used every person in his life, including a complete stranger, as tools? As of now, the case continues in session court. The accused are out on bail. The unknown man has no grave, no name, no legacy, except this story. And perhaps that is the final injustice. But maybe, just maybe, his story has done something powerful. Maybe it has made people stop and think about those around them. The ones who collect our trash, sit on sidewalks, vanish without being noticed. Perhaps it has reminded us that every life, no matter how poor, how invisible, how broken, has value. So now, we leave you with one final question. If a man can live and die without anyone knowing his name, what does that say about us? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.